Yes, my name is Abdi Mohamed. I'm the coordinator for malaria elimination in Zambia for MASEPA, and also a senior advisor for the National Malaria Program. I remember going to different offices in Geneva and in Washington, D.C. and everywhere to just kind of present. We had 3 slides to present, to say this is what the burden is, this is what the problem is. Why is this, 23-year-old male dying of malaria in 2006? To prevent for him or her to get disease, to prevent it costs us $7. To treat it costs us another $7, $14 to save a human life. So I think it's difficult to argue against that. We had actually people, not by name but by number, that we knew died of malaria. I go to UTH hospital once a month to look at the admissions from the casualty, what we call emergency room in the US, and see what was it, why was this patient admitted? Fever, a headache. This slide showed that the patient had malaria, and what was the outcome? That's what we look at. So at that time, the outcome was death. 23-year-old, 13-year-old, a pregnant mother, unacceptable. So we were working in a county called Siaya County. Siaya County is considered the most malarious part in the world. So we used to go to different districts and different villages, and we were in a village near the Lake Victoria, because that's where the Lake Victoria, the county borders Lake Victoria. So we found a kid who he was in a clinic and had malaria, severe malaria, and the clinic didn't have much to offer to him because they were stuck out of drugs, suffering from anemia, severe anemia. They knew he had a hemoglobin of 7, I think. He needed transfusion. So the next hospital was an hour. We went to the next hospital. But when we got there, they had the treatment, but they didn't have the blood transfusion. So he got his treatment there. So what should you do? We are the ones who took him from the village to this district. So we took him from that district and called. Luckily, one of our MASEPA members, when we were doing studies there too, was also the district manager in a neighboring district. So I asked him if he had blood, and he said he didn't. But he said you can get it from the private hospital, which we went. And eventually got the kid transfused. We admitted him and we left. And we actually had to pay for his treatment. When we left in the morning, when I was leaving town back to Nairobi, I stopped by the hospital and I went to his room and I couldn't find him. So myself and the driver, we panicked. We thought he died overnight. We panicked. So the nurse came and she said, well, what are you looking for? We're looking at the kid that was admitted here last night because of severe anemia and needed transfusion. And she opened the window and he said, he's right there playing in the yard. That's the difference between life and death in malaria. Right there. So for me, when you think about interventions that we're making, it has that personal touch also. The kid survived because he got what he's supposed to get. But if he didn't, then what happens? Zambia has actually been scaled up for other countries. Zambia is unique in that sense. Most people don't see historically. Zambia was the first country that changed its treatment policy from chloroquine, that the world knew hundreds of years, how to treat malaria. Zambia was the first country that got rid of chloroquine because of the resistance that it developed into a new drug called artemether lumefantrine, ACT in short. And that's what we use globally now. All African countries, that's how you treat malaria. And Zambia was the first country that did that. Secondly, also the mass distribution campaign to provide a mosquito net to everyone in the country. It wasn't done. It was done per district, maybe a province. So you can imagine there was a lot of resistance or skepticism because where does the money come from? So Zambia was the first country, and it was actually the Bill Gates Foundation that provided the first distribution campaign in Zambia. So countries are now able to buy all the nets they need. They just program it. It's bought by Global Fund and also the PMI. It's routine. But it started the discussions, and the scale-up started right here in Zambia. I was fortunate to be a member of that team that advocated globally to provide everybody that needed a mosquito net to get one and to be protected from malaria. To change the malaria drug from chloroquine that developed resistance already that was useless to this new drug. Everybody said, again, you can't change your policy because it's expensive. So what's expensive, $7 or a human life? There is no government, in my opinion, in Africa that's committed as Zambia is. And that is not because of anything else. I'm not affiliated with any group in Zambia. I'm not a Zambian. I'm saying that for my own experience. From the president to the lowest level, the political will to eliminate malaria in Zambia, I have not seen anywhere else. It's a priority for them to eliminate malaria, and they have given us all the support. My family in Somalia is a nomadic. It's that we are very traditional nomadic people, and the nomadic people are not static. They move, looking for resources and for water and for grass and so on. But they have strict values also that they follow. And one of the values that I follow, I still consider myself nomadic. I am not static in any place or in any idea. You have to change the way you do things, otherwise you become static, and if you are static, you decay. So what kept me here is precisely that. Zambia's elimination strategy is not static, it's innovative, it's changing. That we started Sufi, and then we did, Sufi got us somewhere, a coverage increased and malaria burden reduced, but then that's where we were. What else can we do? And then the studies that were done in southern province to actually bring another innovative intervention to reduce malaria where it is today, almost zero in many places in southern province. And then that is now based, the new strategy is based on that, malaria elimination. So now we have learned lessons again to say, if we do these things, actually we can further reduce malaria transmission and eliminate malaria. So I'm adverse to static things. So that's what kept me. There was always this challenge moving, not doing the same thing and expecting a different results. So it kind of coincided with my own personal beliefs of not being static. You run the risk of you decay when you start. So people are scared of change, and they don't like, even when you bring change. That's why the first question was, people were skeptical about everything that we have done. Even there is a skepticism about malaria elimination, but that's good. You prove others wrong. You may fail, but you learn lessons. And we're not doing the same thing, and you're not static. And that's what kept me here. Just keep moving, bring new innovative mechanisms that will add to the armamentarium to reduce malaria transmission. It is absolutely, I would say, unacceptable for 2020, a human being dying of malaria infection. It's not a big deal for many people, I guess. But it's shame, in my opinion, that anyone dies of malaria today. It's just so unacceptable. And I think that's because of what I said. People accepting, people are afraid changing and accepting with the static position that they are at. So for me, it worked out in that sense. It's coincided and it's aligned with my own personal beliefs of not being static and continue moving. If you don't move, I will end by saying that one of my favorite poems is an Iraqi poet who died centuries ago, who in a sense says, you know, the lions, if they don't go out and hunt, what happens to them? They starve to death. What's a gold? Gold is dirt, right? Somebody went there, collected that dirt, sieved, and did something with it. He says the arrow, it can sit there unless somebody puts it in a bow and gives that so that it can go and attack and whatever. The idea is moving. The lion has to move to eat. Somebody had to move to produce dirt to become gold. An arrow has to move with effort. Otherwise, it's just an arrow. What's an arrow? It's nothing. So that's why movement and innovation and new ideas are needed. And that's why some countries are still stuck in control, and they will achieve something and it fall back, come back here and fall back. And Zambia hasn't done that, and I hope they will continue to move forward. I'm very fortunate to be part of that.